Christian, you have a pretty extraordinary story. Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I was recruited at 14 years old in 1987 into America's first neo-Nazi skinhead group. I spent 8 years as part of the white supremacist movement in America and also worked abroad during that time. I got out in 1996, and for the last 20 years, I've been helping people disengage from extremism.
When you see something like what just happened this weekend in El Paso, what's your reaction to that? How do you interpret what is happening in our country right now?
Well, of course, I'm horrified, but I also am not surprised. This is something I've been warning about for 2 decades, something that began to be normalized in the late 80s and early 90s, and then during the election season of 2016 became mainstreamed. The notion of what I call boots to suits happened. So we stopped at that point in the early 90s really outwardly showing our allegiance to this movement because we recognized we were turning away the average American white racist from being recruited. So we started to tone down the rhetoric. We started to dress differently and encourage people really to not join a group because we wanted them to blend in. Now, I got out in 96, and at that point never even thought that what would happen, and the election of 2016 really cemented it.
What's different about the white supremacist movement today than when you were first recruited in the 80s?
I think it's more accessible. The internet really, was kind of the fire that it needed. I was a marginalized kid standing in an alley when I was recruited at 14 years old. I felt abandoned. I didn't have very many friends, and I was bullied. Now those millions of kids, instead of being found in an alley and handed a pamphlet, are now living online in a virtual world, and have access to this type of narrative.
For people who do right now in this moment believe these ideas, though, these racist, anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic ideas, how do you get someone out of that frame of mind? How do you de-radicalize?
Right. All those things that you mentioned are external stimuli that really don't affect that person very much at all. And what I would say, and what I would do is I would listen and try to understand what the motivation was that detoured them in that direction. People aren't born to hate. It's something that they learn, and they typically grab onto it when something is uncertain in their life. And I think if we can identify, all the human infrastructure problems with our country in terms of healthcare and jobs and security, and actually focus on this as a domestic extremism and domestic terrorism problem, which it is, then I think we have a real shot at this.
What should we be doing as a society and as a culture to combat this? And what should our leadership be doing to combat this?
Well, first of all, our leadership needs to not be complicit in it and needs to call it for what it is. So many of the policies that I'm hearing today are policies that 30 years ago I would have been up on a table jumping about, and I guarantee you that white supremacists are. I mean, in their own words, they support these racist policies. And as a country, I think we need to establish a better foundation for the young people being born today, to make sure that they're not wanting for mental health care or health care in general, that they have access to an education, equal access to jobs and opportunity. And in the interim, while we raise children that are more grounded, I think we have to not be silent. We have to be vocal about what we're seeing, and we have to stand up to it in nonviolent ways.
If there are people watching this who do hold those beliefs, if there are people watching this who are currently in white supremacist or the so-called alt-right groups, what is your message to them?
I would say they really need to self-reflect and understand that the ideology that they're buying into is based on fraud, illogical facts, and lies, and that there are other ways that if they just expand their horizons, are open to a little bit more impact from people that surround them, that they see that they don't interact with, that it will change their world.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here. And click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.